Hello, and welcome to this complete beginner's guide for Enshrouded, the new open world survival RPG. Stepping into the world as a Flameborn, you'll be exploring the diverse world of Embervale. It's worth mentioning this game is in early access and things will change over time, but don't let that put you off. Enshrouded is incredibly polished for an early access title, and on starting the game, you'll be thrust into an open world immediately, and it is gorgeous. Let's get started with the basics. The core concept behind Enshrouded is the collection of materials to craft, explore, engage in combat, and build your house, with all of its systems building on one another to let you explore further and further into the world. As you travel through the world, you'll find all kinds of items. You can pick these up with E, and I'd highly recommend picking up what you can see at the start, as almost everything has its use cases early on. Picking up materials also unlocks new recipes, so don't hesitate to pick up anything, as you never know what's going to open up new and exciting options. When you pick up an item that unlocks a recipe, you'll see this pop up on the screen. When you pick up items, they go into your hotbar first, and then in your backpack. Your hotbar items are the ones down the bottom. These are the ones you can quickly select between, and you can swap between bars by pressing Alt. These are protected items, so if you die, these stay with you. It's important to know that when you do die, you do leave a tombstone, and you can go back to this. Some of the items in your backpack will be left behind when you die, so if you pick up something really special and you think it's valuable, it's best to keep this safe if you're in a dangerous area. Like I said, you do drop a tombstone, so you can always return and collect your belongings, but if you're far from home, this can be a pretty long trip. Before we touch further on crafting, let's talk through combat. Throughout your time in Embervale, you can engage in melee, ranged, and magic combat styles, with the ability to specialize into these as you level up. Melee combat involves hitting enemies, parrying, blocking, and dodging. Enemies hit quite hard, so it's important to take your opportunities when you can to dodge or block. Parrying, which is a block landing as the enemy's hitting you, is more of a risky strategy, but land enough parries or hits on an enemy and you can break them into a stun, which gives you the chance to land a number of free hits. As you would have seen, enemies have both a health bar and a white poise meter. It's the white meter that you need to increase by hitting an enemy while they're shielding, or by parrying their hits to make that stun occur. The enemy attack patterns are pretty unique, so you may need to take some time to understand how an enemy behaves if they look like a challenge, as some of the bosses can spell your doom pretty quickly. I liken the combat to something like Elden Ring. Enemies hit pretty hard, but their attacks are generally well telegraphed. Combat revolves around your stamina bar. Dodging, hitting, shooting, and sprinting consume stamina. If you're out of stamina, you cannot dodge, so it's important to keep track of this with a green ring in the center of your screen. Stamina recovers over time, and later we'll touch on some ways to increase your total stamina as well as its regeneration. Running out of stamina and being unable to dodge is one of the quickest ways you'll find yourself overwhelmed, and this has been my end more than once. Enemies are present throughout the world, but pay particular attention to the Shroud. It's very identifiable by the blue haze in various pockets of the world. Your time in these areas is limited, and if you run out of time, you'll die very quickly. The Shroud contains important upgrade materials throughout the game, and is one of the many threads of the story that tell the tale of the world. While in the Shroud, you may find hourglasses to refill some of your time, but these can be pretty few and far between. Always know how far you are from your nearest exit to avoid death. To reset your time in the Shroud, you can walk outside and it replenishes pretty quickly. Some potions can increase your time in the Shroud, and upgrading your fire altar can also do this. We'll touch more on the fire altar shortly. The Shroud limits how far you can see, and if you're under-leveled, Shroud can be considered Deadly Shroud, which will kill you pretty much instantly. I unfortunately only learned about this while gliding myself. Another quick editing note here, you can identify Deadly Shroud by the red hue it has. I really should have known about this, but I clearly didn't. What Shroud you can and cannot enter is linked to your fire altar level. The higher its level, the further you can travel into the world. The game does a decent job of introducing new enemies to you slowly over time, but it's important you remain ready for the upcoming challenges, as enemies further from the starting zone will have higher levels and be much more difficult to take down. So how do you keep up? Crafting and leveling. Crafting is central to Enshrouded. Crafting opens up the world to you. It keeps you alive, it keeps you healthy, and you can even shape the world around you to suit to your liking through terraforming and building your own varied structures. These screenshots here are just a few of the builds people were showing off on the Enshrouded Reddit. You can really get quite creative if base building is something that interests you. You have basic crafting options all the time. Think of this as what you'd be able to make by hand. I'm not really sure I could make string out of plant fiber. but I'll take it. Your first quest is to claim some land, which opens up the crafting bench to be placed and is the start of your journey. Enshrouded again does an excellent job at opening up crafts over time. Once you've claimed your land and built a workbench, you gain new options and quests. I would highly recommend following some of the main plot points, as these lead you to NPCs who can be placed in your home and open up further crafting stations as well as quests for you. The NPCs in the world are very static. You find them, you then place them, and they basically act as interactable crafting benches that have some dialogue. Quests in the world are handed to you one after another, found by exploring, reading lore and items in the world, and provided to you by the NPCs. Your quests generally lead into one another and generally provide you more lore, upgrade paths, or access to the wider world, and require you to travel all over the map. Central to this again is collecting those resources. Don't be disheartened if you're constantly finding yourself leaving your home to go and find new items. That's the gameplay loop here. I'd highly recommend picking up plant fiber early on, lots of string, and scrap metal as well, because you'll need this in some of the early important crafts and they can be a bit challenging to find. A quick tip within locations is you can break boxes, vases, and just those general items you see in the world, and these can have some of those materials inside them. Plant fiber you'll just find around the place, but the metal shards, the metal plates, those you'll find in these containers in quite an abundance, specifically in the towers. Crafting new items, armor, weapons, and improving your home all give you benefits to your character and increase your ability to traverse and survive in the world. As soon as you can make them, make the grappling hook and the glider. The game does point you to these very early, but this opens up the world to you in so many ways. Suddenly inaccessible areas will be accessible and you'll be able to get around with much more ease. Alright, jumping in here with a quick editing note, I did forgot to talk about co-op. Co-op, you share resources, you share equipment. If there's a chest in the world, only one of you can open it. Well, you can both open it, but only one of you will get the loot, if that makes sense. So it's a shared loot system. You'll build together, you'll store things together, but most importantly, and something to remember, is you'll quest together. So if you have two players, one player goes off and completes a quest, it's completed for both of you. That's been a point of contention in the community slightly, because people will go off, someone will pick up a quest, and then it won't appear for the other person, or it will appear for both of them, and then one person's experienced the quest, the other one hasn't. Something to consider, if you're playing co-op, it might be good to kind of travel together, but really depends if it bothers you. If you're not bothered by somebody going off and getting all the quests, then, yeah, that's fine. Just something to consider, but playing co-op, always a good time. Crafting armor is vital. Some can be found in the world, but early on you'll need to craft some using animal skins and metal scrap or plates. Armor can be crafted to match your playstyle. As the game progresses, with full archer, melee and mage based clothes being something you can find and craft, each providing unique buffs to the damage or other aspects of your character that you're building towards, like health and stamina regeneration. Early on, you'll need to craft your armors. Weapons I found were easily accessible in the world, and I never felt the need to craft these, and your options in crafting weapons is quite limited at this time. Whereas armors I didn't really find in the world until I was much further into the game, and I'd also found most of my NPCs as well. Weapons have different rarities, measured by their color, as you'd expect, with legendary weapons being orange, and often being the rarest you can find. They often come with unique buffs or powerful damage multipliers, but over time you'll find some of these will become outscaled. Weapons with high rarities generally have better damage and multipliers, which you can find by looking at them here. The locked options can be opened up, which I'll touch on later. It's important to know your weapons don't scale with you. They have locked levels, and you will over time find better weapons naturally. For bow and magic users, you'll want to find your NPCs early on, the alchemist and the hunter, who are able to craft the ammunition you need. Archers, as you'd expect, need arrows, but mages need charges of the elemental magic they're firing from their staffs, so you need to find more of these charges to continue to being able to use your magic. Wands are quite a unique item in Enshrouded. These don't require charges, they're just wands, they have their own power, and you can just shoot them to your heart's content. I always found having a wand on hand was pretty good. If you run out of arrows as an archer, you can always switch to a wand for a good ranged option, or if you're a melee fighter, having a wand on hand isn't bad if you just need to land a couple of quick shots to finish off a tough opponent. The alchemist and hunter are also your go-to NPCs for the armors related to those classes. Pay special attention to the hunter if you like exploring and crafting, as she can also sell you the ability to upgrade your backpack and increase its size. I say sell, but it's a craft. Now, I'm talking about classes, but it's important to understand you start off as just a base character. The classes you pick through your tree later on. Another quick tip to crafting is that starting out, you'll need crafting materials on your character to be able to use them, meaning you'll need the string, animal skins, and resin on your body to create the armors early on. Finding the carpenter unlocks the ability to build these special blue chests. These chests allow you to craft with materials that you've stored in them while at your base. Filling out your base with these means you'll never be jumping back and forth wondering where you've stored that extra piece of fur. It'll always be available in your menus. I'd highly recommend looking for all 5 of your NPCs early on after picking up your first glider and grappling hook. I'll drop a link in the description on an article that can lead you to all of them. Some might require you to get to a higher level. The carpenter is often a bit of a side area, and generally you need to be a bit of a higher level to get there. You could make it though if you wanted to. While talking about crafting, let's look at cooking. Cooking is another complementary skill that is optional, but you'll put yourself at a disadvantage by not using it. Cooking gives you unique buffs based on the food you use. These purple berries found all around your starting location give you a short burst of health regeneration. I would highly recommend keeping these on hand until you unlock some other form of passive regeneration. This wolf meat gives you a boost to your overall max health for a while, meaning you can take those extra strong hits, and tomatoes increase your damage of ranged attacks. Experiment with new foods and don't forget to cook them. Good lord, don't go eating that raw meat. Food and clothing can also increase your overall stamina, which brings us to this point: rest and comfort. Returning it to your home from time to time is important. Keeping it upgraded and comfy will give you greater gains in your stamina bar for a limited time, which you can see as the green circle begins to overlap itself. This is additional stamina. More stamina later in the game is hugely important as it keeps you nimble in combat, increases how fast you can explore the world, and lets you glide for longer. To do this, you need shelter, fire, and just general comfort, all of which can be improved as you build your home. Yeah, my home is a bit of just a small stone shack, but you can build yourself a hobbit hole into the side of a hill by digging it out, or a giant castle like those Reddit lads. Initially, this benefit is small and only lasts a few minutes, but over time this benefit grows and can be substantial. It's always a good idea to rest up before taking on a big challenge, and this is an opportunity to make the game easier on you if you're having some of the trouble with combat, or if you're going into an area that's a bit over-leveled for you. Having more stamina gives you so many more options in that space, and it's really important to plan if you're heading into a hard boss fight. Base building is rather optional outside of this, if this isn't your interest. Like me, I'm not someone who's big on base building, but for those willing to invest the time, the options are endless. Base building in Enshrouded is flexible and easy to pick up. With the correct materials, the buildings can snap into place really easily, and aren't constrained by terrain like in some other games, giving you the option to live like a dwarf in a mountain or underground. You can alter terrain, which gets easier as you unlock more crafting options and tools, and build to your heart's content. You will need to complete some of the main story beats in order to do this, or at least go out and collect the required items, many of which involve you going to the world to beat challenging enemies for specific materials. Initially, your home is limited to a small area, although it's big enough for a starter home. Something worth knowing is that your flame altar is also a fast travel point. You can set multiple flame altars in the world, which allow you to set your own fast travel points and bases if you want to build more than one. There's no need to build more than one base, and your flame altars will work as a fast travel point without building around them. Other specific towers in the world also work as fast travel points once you've unlocked them, so while you're out exploring, they're worth aiming for. There's no better feeling than fast traveling to the top of one of these towers and then gliding across the world. The wingsuit is one of my favourite additions, with some very easy comparisons to the recent Zelda games and what they've borrowed from those. Enshrouded does enough to set itself apart, and the wingsuit never felt like it was broken and letting me skip exploration. I always felt like I could fly a certain distance, but I actually had to make my way on foot to the next tower. Leveling up the flame altar can also give you more building space, it improves your rest bonus, and also allows you to reset your passive skill tree. Speaking of, that's a good segue. Your skill tree in Enshrouded is available early on when you first level up. Actions in the world award you experience. Reading lore pages and learning about the world, often highlighted by these red hues, award you XP purely for clicking on them. Gathering, exploring, and combat all provide you XP in different ways, so no matter what your interest, you will level up over time. Your skill tree allows you to focus on what you love. Are you an explorer? Looking into the options, you can get increased rest time, safety from wild animals, or give yourself a boost while gliding. If you're a melee fighter, you can pick up skills that give you a jumping slam attack. Archers can increase their headshot damage, shoot multiple arrows, or even shoot while gliding, and so much more. As you level up, look through your options and don't be scared to experiment. You can always reset these points. Resetting your points does cost you. This is a resource gained when killing enemies in the Shroud, but primarily from dismantling weapons you don't need. You'll come across lots of weapons while exploring, so don't hesitate to scrap them. Your blacksmith, which is the first NPC you meet, is able to enhance your weapons with this material as well. Although I found this to be a little expensive if you're swapping weapons frequently, so I'd choose more wisely. These upgrades are unlocked in tiers and let you see what they are before choosing what to invest. Weapons you do like do have a durability as well, and they will break over time, but simply opening and closing a workbench will repair these to full. So you're never going to run out of a weapon. If there's a weapon you like, you might use it until it breaks, but all you need to do is fast travel and repair it. Enshrouded is an incredible experience with a diverse and expansive world. I cannot wait to see what these developers do with this game. When I played this as a demo, I raved about it in one of my YouTube videos, and I'm so glad to see it thriving on its early access release. I cannot imagine what they're going to do leading this game up to full release, but at the moment I would say this is a complete package. If they would release this just as a game and not in early access, I would have thought, yeah, this is good, this is worth a buy. I can't wait to see what they can do with this game. If I had some complaints, I would say the enemy variety is a bit lacking at the moment. You are fighting a lot of the same enemies throughout most of the game. However, again, as an early access title, I'll give this a bit of a slide, and the enemies are challenging and diverse enough that I didn't get too sick of fighting them. This game is going to evolve over time, and I really hope we get more of this environmental storytelling. But hey, thank you for checking out this guide. If you found it helpful, please do consider liking, subscribing, and catching me in the comments below. I play all kinds of games, and I like making this educational content from time to time, so let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on storytelling in games? Do you like it spread out over the world like Zelda or Elden Ring, or do you prefer it more direct in cutscenes? Let me know below, and I will see you guys in the next one.